Stop what you're doing right now and take this quick test. Can you name the 3 primary momentum killers in your life? Can you identify which one is costing you the most progress? And do you know the specific neurological antidote to each? If you answered no to any of these questions, this video could be the turning point you've been searching for. I'm gonna challenge your fundamental assumptions about how momentum works and give you a radically different approach, one that focuses not on adding more to your plate, but on strategic elimination. What if I told you that the real reason you can't build momentum isn't laziness or lack of discipline, but something far more fundamental, something woven into the very fabric of who you believe yourself to be? This is the concept of identity homeostasis, a powerful psychological mechanism that actively works against change. Your current identity as collection of beliefs, habits, and narratives you've constructed about yourself isn't just passive. It's a living, breathing system designed to maintain equilibrium at all costs, even when that equilibrium keeps you mediocre, frustrated, and stuck. When you attempt to build momentum toward a new goal, you're not just fighting external obstacles, you're battling an internal guardian programmed to protect your existing self-concept. The guardian operates beneath conscious awareness, systematically sabotaging your efforts to change. The moment you start making progress, internal alarms begin to sound. This isn't who you are. You're overreaching. You'll only disappoint yourself again. Neurologically, this process makes perfect sense. Your brain has spent years reinforcing neural pathways that define your current identity. Every time you think I'm not good with technology or I can't stick with exercise, you strengthen these pathways. According to neuroplasticity research, as our brains are efficient systems that prioritize familiar patterns, they naturally resist rewiring because maintaining existing networks requires significantly less energy than forming new ones. This explains why traditional motivation tactics so frequently fail. Willpower, vision boards, accountability partners. These approaches attempt to overcome resistance without addressing its source. It's like trying to drive with one foot on the accelerator and one foot firmly on the brake. No matter how much motivational fuel you pour in, your identity's homeostatic mechanisms will continue applying the brakes. James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, captures this perfectly. The most effective way to change your habits is not to focus on what you want to achieve, but on who you wish to become. Until you address the identity level, you're fighting a battle you're neurologically programmed to lose. We don't break free from this trap. You need to conduct what I call an identity audit, a systematic examination of the beliefs that define your current limitation. Take out a piece of paper and complete these 3 statements. I am the kind of person who I've always been, and I could never. The patterns that emerge will reveal your identity constraints, the invisible ceiling on your potential. These constraints manifest as seemingly innocent self-descriptions that actually function as self-fulfilling prophecies. I'm not a morning person becomes the reason you never establish a productive morning routine. I'm bad with money justifies continuing the financial habits that keep you stuck. I'm too disorganized to follow through becomes the perfect excuse for abandoning projects before completion. Each of these identity statements creates what psychologists call confirmation bias. Your brain automatically filters for evidence that supports your existing beliefs, while discounting contradictory information. Remember that time you woke up early and felt great? Your identity dismisses it as a fluke. Remember when you saved money successfully? Just a temporary anomaly. The revolutionary approach I'm about to share bypasses willpower entirely. Instead of fighting against your identity's resistance mechanisms, you'll learn to dissolve them at their source. This isn't about adding new layers of habits and routines on top of a foundation that's programmed to reject them. It's about removing the internal constraints that make momentum seem impossible in the first place. Think of it like this. For years, you've been trying to grow a garden in soil filled with invisible barriers and toxins. No matter how many seeds you plant or how diligently you water, true growth remains limited. The identity reset will explore removes these barriers, creating fertile ground where momentum can finally take root and flourish. This reset isn't about becoming someone you're not. It's about removing the artificial limitations, preventing you from becoming who you're truly capable of being. It's about questioning the story you've been telling yourself about who you are and what you're capable of achieving. Questioning the stories you tell yourself is just the first step, but what happens next determines whether you'll break free or remain trapped in the same patterns. Look around at people who've achieved extraordinary momentum in their lives. What separates them isn't some magical resource you lack or a secret technique they've mastered. The difference lies in what they've systematically eliminated from their lives. The most transformative journeys don't begin with addition. They start with strategic disappearance. When most people try to build momentum, they immediately reach for new productivity systems, morning routines, or motivation techniques. They pile more onto their already overwhelming lives, wondering why nothing sticks. It's like pouring water into a bucket riddled with holes and being surprised when it remains empty. The solution isn't more water, it's fixing the leaks. Strategic disappearance is the deliberate elimination of the specific thoughts, the environment, and relationships that consistently drain your momentum. It's the counterintuitive act of creating space before attempting to fill it. Think of it as clearing the ground before building a foundation. Without this crucial step, any momentum you manage to generate will inevitably dissipate against the same old obstacles. Step 2. Your first challenge is to identify your 3 primary momentum killers. These aren't generic excuses like lack of time or it's not enough energy. They're the specific triggers that predictably derail you. Maybe it's the social media app you open just for a minute that swallows 2 hours. Perhaps it's the friend who subtly undermines your ambitions with well-intentioned concern. Or it could be the perfectionist thought pattern that convinces you to abandon projects before they're complete. To pinpoint these momentum killers, conduct a momentum inventory. Think back to the last 3 times you lost momentum on something important. What specific factors preceded the loss? Was it an environmental trigger, a particular thought pattern, or a social dynamic? Look for the recurring elements, the common denominators in your moments of derailment. These are your targets for strategic elimination. This process mirrors what mythologist Joseph Campbell called the hero's journey. In every great transformation story, the hero must face a supreme ordeal, a confrontation with their deepest fears and limitations. For you, this ordeal is facing and eliminating the belief and environments that have kept you comfortable but stagnant. It's removing the safety nets that have prevented both failure and growth. The neurological mechanism that makes strategic disappearance so powerful is pattern interruption. When you deliberately eliminate a trigger or environment that's linked to an unproductive behavior, you create a neural gap, a momentary confusion in your brain's habitual circuitry. This gap provides a rare opportunity for new neural connections to form. It's in these spaces of disruption that transformation becomes possible. There are 3 primary techniques for dismantling your momentum killers. First, cognitive restructuring, identifying and challenging the specific thought patterns that undermine your progress. Second, environmental redesign, physically removing or altering the triggers in your surroundings that lead to momentum loss. And third, strategic avoidance, temporarily or permanently distancing yourself from relationships and situations that consistently drain your energy and resolve. The power of strategic disappearance extends beyond simply removing obstacles. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the same principle applies to your identity and habits. When you systematically eliminate what doesn't serve you, you create a vacuum that naturally pulls in new behaviors aligned with your desired direction. This is why elimination is often more powerful than addition. It leverages the natural forces of equilibrium rather than fighting against them. Consider what happens when you permanently remove your biggest distraction from your environment. At first, you'll feel uncomfortable, even anxious. Your brain will crave the familiar pattern. But in that space of discomfort, new possibilities emerge. Without your default distraction available, your mind will eventually seek new outlets. And with conscious intention, you can guide it toward productive alternatives. The most transformative aspect of strategic disappearance is how it changes your relationship with obstacles. When you've eliminated the internal resistance that makes challenges seem insurmountable, external obstacles transform from threatening barriers into natural stepping stones. The same obstacle that once stopped you completely becomes merely another problem to solve, or even a catalyst that propels you forward. We've reached the end of our journey, and I want you to understand something profound. The momentum you seek isn't waiting for you on the other side of more work, more effort, or more sacrifice. It's already within you, buried beneath the limitations you've accepted as truth. Your transformation begins today. Not when you add another productivity hack or morning routine, but when you consciously eliminate what's been holding you back. In this quiet subtraction, you'll discover a power greater than willpower could ever be. So ask yourself, are you ready to let go of the version of yourself that stands between you and unstoppable momentum?